hate it when you put a fresh t-shirt on and you just get makeup all over it. Welcome to my corporate goth tutorial. It's yours truly, Crystal Leandra, because this is the biggest request I get on TikTok, and I feel like a minute isn't long enough to talk about it. For corporate goth, I have 4 options of palettes. We're only going to use one today. If you want me to do more looks using the same palette or other palettes, we'll do it. But these are definitely my top picks for corporate goth. Starting strong with the Cara palette, Cara Beauty. This is the Goddess Nem Pro 15 palette, okay? I know what you're saying. Looks like a lot of gray tones. It is, like, for sure, okay? But you can do a lot with this. It's grays, it's taupey, it's not totally black. I have people who are paramedics that follow me. I have attorneys. I have all spectrums of life following me. I don't know, some of my nurses that follow me that are goths still wear black eyeshadow. So it's really up to you on what you push the bar with, what your work allows if you work for yourself. But this, I mean, this row is dark, but this is a lot of taupes and a lot of grays that are really easy to work with for what you're needing. And the price point in her palettes are pretty inexpensive. I believe this was somewhere in the range of like 25 to 30 bucks. Next palette is, yes, Colourpop Stone Cold Fox palette. I am a pretty big fan of Colourpop. Sometimes their shadows are hit and miss. You can kind of tell, like, this is a little bit more on the powdery side depending on how bad it stains. That means some of the products may have been cut with a little bit more talc than others. But overall, this is a really great cool toned option palette for essentially neutrals and taupes. I have made a look with this before. I'm not sure which one I'm going to use today, but I think this is a great option depending on kind of what you're looking for your vibes. If you're wanting me to compare the 2 palettes so that you can decide, here is the Cara palette next to the Colourpop palette. Now, personally, my absolute favorite palette out of all of these, and I have one more to show you after this, is of course Beauty Bay. You know that I'm addicted to Beauty Bay. In my opinion, they have the best quality, one of the best quality shadows on the market. Now this does have some warmer tones, but this is grungy down here. It's definitely cool tones. It's definitely taupes. This palette I believe is about $35. There's some shimmers, so you can even use this as a transitional palette for nighttime. Like if you were at work and then you wanted to go out after work, you can dip into some of the darker shades. I love the color story on this palette. So for me, this is the winner for the Corp Goth palette. And price point for such a large palette is perfect. I'm gonna compare these again so that you can see them, so you can make a decision on what you think works best for you. And look at the size of the pans. I mean, you just can't beat the size of the pans at Beauty Bay, but really you get a different color story with all of these palettes, like all around. And here is Beauty Bay next to the Cara palette. So definitely more of like gray, cool toned darks versus a little bit more warmer, but more taupes. Now the last one that I have is controversial, I know, but I'm gonna share it anyways. And that is the Jeffree Star Cremation palette. This is the only goth palette on the market. And I mean, when I say only, I mean only. And yes, I mean, we have some darks up here, but really, generally speaking, I mean, you can see how loved this palette is. I've just killed it practically. I've hit the pan in quite a few of them. Lots of taupes, you can, and once again, a perfect palette to transition to nighttime. I'm gonna compare these again so that you can see. Now this one is a little bit more pricey, but I will say the shadows in the Jeffree Star palette are, the quality is good, it is there. If you're against shopping him, through him on his website, you can always go to Nordstrom Rack sometimes has it. Online, the app, or in store. And I'm comparing this to the Cara palette is right here. So the Cara palette is a bit closer, but it's definitely missing those real true black tones. These are more of like some really deep grays at the bottom. And then comparing this to the Stone Cold Fox palettes, definitely just a totally different color story. Because I know that this is probably going to be the most accessible to you guys because you can literally pick this up at Ulta, I think we're going to go ahead and use the Stone Cold Fox palette for this look today. If you guys want to see me do more Corp Goth looks with these, make sure you comment below and let me know which one you'd like to see. Starting this look, let's use some white P. Louise. So I love P. Louise. I think it's one of the best tacky eyeshadow bases you can buy. It is a little pricey. You have to usually get it through the P. Louise website. You used to be able to purchase it through Morphe, but that was before, you know, that drama went down. So I'm just gonna pat this in all over the lid and even a little bit underneath. The corporate goth look, you don't really want to do something dark, clearly, so we need to be careful what color story we're going with. So what I always do first is sort of examine what I have, what I'm working with. You can clearly tell with Colourpop that their rows, like if you like black this row out, let me grab something. Grab this Makeup Revolution palette. You can tell that this row is a color story and this row is a color story. So for me, I really like this third row. It feels very taupey. It feels good for a goth corp look. So I'm gonna start with You Rock and I'm gonna go down this row. So I'm starting out with the shade You Rock and I'm gonna use this. I love this. It's a very taupey shade. I feel like it's perfect for a transition shade. You know, you can always go more than what I add or less than what I add, but I'm just a taupe. I'm addicted to taupes like this. Definitely with my skin tone too, I like cooler tones. So let's start with just kind of building up You Rock all over both of the lids. I'm not really sure how much I want to apply. I'm not sure kind of what we're going to do with this look. Now today for a Corp Goth look, I'm going to pretend like I'm an attorney and I have my own, I'm Elle Woods, the goth attorney. So I kind of have my own firm and I'm allowed to do a little bit more than what I normally would. So I'm going to add a little bit of black on the outer corner. But once again, you can take that out or add more to it. It's really up to you, depending on what your position allows. So I kind of like this right now. This is a really good start. It's like a building block. I feel like a good taupe shade is always a good spot to sort of start. Of course, I'm obsessed with gray tones as well. I usually switch off and use fresh brushes for every color because you just don't want overlapping. It can cause shadows to get muddy. So I have some really great Amazon brushes if you need. That's one big thing. Like a couple of my girlfriends like, how does your makeup always look so good and clean and crisp? Good brushes, okay? Like you don't have to spend an arm and a leg. The best price over-the-counter brushes are definitely like Wet n Wild for 99 cents. Like they're blending brushes. I have a million, honestly. They're 99 cents. You can get them at CVS, at Ulta sometimes has them. I always find them at Walgreens for sure, and Walmart, 99 cents. Just get like 10 of these. Or if you want to go on a higher end, Spectrum brushes are really, really great. Or just go to my Amazon store. I try new brushes all the time. They're not always great. So make sure you're using the ones I'm recommending in my Amazon store because I've gotten some that are like not good. So I'm gonna dip into the next shade and I'm not really sure what I'm doing yet. I think I am gonna grab a fluffier brush this time. I think I'm gonna go into, so we just used this guy here. So I think I'm gonna go deeper immediately. So I'm gonna go into first this one, some black, and then maybe like a white, the silver, and this shimmer, kind of mix it up a little bit. You can change this every day. You don't have to wear the same look every day. I'm just going with a taupier sort of look. In my crease with it. So now I'm building this up in the crease and I really need to pay attention to where I'm putting it because I don't want to overshadow the color we've already put in because I really like that taupe. So this is going up about 3/4 of the way my eye and just in the crease. And people ask me all the time, how do you blend? Just, I pick up pigment, tap a little bit off, and then start pressing it in. I'm not really like a wiping kind of person. I'm more pressing it in. Press it in where you need it to be, press it. And then once it's where it needs to be, then you can go through with small circles See how I did that? Small circles, and that's gonna sort of mute both of the shades together, and it's not gonna come out muddy. You can already see it's starting to cause like a gradient, which is exactly what we want. Sometimes I'll revisit using the same previous brush, so I keep my brushes separate, and then if I need to rebuff in some of that first shade, I'll just lightly go back over and then repeat the process. So now we're gonna go into the next darker shade. This one I'm gonna go Cult Classic, and we're gonna go on the lid with this. It's definitely a deeper, darker taupe. I'm taking a smaller, more defined brush so that I can really get in the crack of that eye, and I'm kind of pulling this up to a sort of wing shape so that when I do add a little bit of black on the outer edges, the shape has already been kind of created for me. Okay, now a couple of things, and I'm gonna first, my biggest suggestion when you have a palette that's like this size is if you're not sure about the shimmers or how they're gonna look with the look that you're doing, I will always just pick up several on my hand to see how they perform, okay? And then I kind of hold them up to see, okay, which one am I gonna want? I like this one definitely as an inner corner and brow highlight. So for me, that's just, and then I'll wipe it on, I have like a rag down here. So now I'm gonna go in and take kind of a small buffing sort of brush, and I'm gonna pick up that same shimmer for adding it to the inner corner. It's a little bit darker than I would have liked, so I'm gonna take another brush. Okay, I'm gonna buff that out. Just buff it out. And now I'm gonna add the lighter shade over it. That's much better. That is the shade, I dig it. And I'm actually gonna use that same shade. I think it's just too perfect for a brow highlight. To me, I feel like brow highlights just sort of bring the whole thing together, especially if you're in corporate goth and you can't do a lot with your makeup, because, you know, us as alts, as goths, we love our dark, dramatic makeup, and I feel like that's just one way to make you feel a little bit more like yourself, is adding those little tiny pizzazzes, you know, to the makeup style. So yeah, I'm happy with that. Can even connect it a little bit to the inner corner. Now it feels a little dark around my inner eyes right here, so I'm taking a fresh brush and I'm just gonna buff that out again to remove some of that excess. If it still feels too dark, take your beauty blender, go back in, but for me, I'm okay. Now I do want to add some black to this look. You may not be able to, so you might want to stop with this. Right now, remember, the longer defined, deeper, dark wings, like whether that's eyeliner or eyeshadow, it's going to look more intimidating, okay? So I would keep it shorter, smaller. Also, most of the time, us as goths, when we do our eyeliner, it's like straight out, right? Like it's like daggers. Try to have a little bit of a bend on the sides. Try to have a little bit of a bend in it, if you know what I'm saying. And that, I feel like, is also more welcoming when people see you. Now, I just got a little bit of fallout. Colourpop black are not the best, I'm being honest. So I'm just gonna take my beauty blender and blend it out. There you go, it's taken care of. Your beauty blender like an eraser, like art class. Blacks are very powdery. To this, which is why I want to make the black that I add just the outer corner, and then I'll define it with some liner. See, it's just enough to give it a little pizzazz. Now what you do with the waterline is, once again, up to you, right? Like if you can go dark, girl, you get it. If you can't, I think we'll go in with like a darker brown. So it depends. We can work with this one. Let's swatchy swatch, or the lid color. I kind of like both. So I'm gonna use the outer corner with the dark and the inner corner, or the inner waterline, with this lighter taupe. Knock off that extra pigment so it doesn't have as much fallout on your face, but it's gonna happen. Do the same thing, add the pigment, blend it out with that brush so there's no harsh lines. I did have some fallout, so I'm taking my beauty blender. Let's fix it right there. Now I have really big eyes, so I do prefer to use a black liner on my waterline. If you can't do that for work, use a brown. Use something brown. I think Essence has the best liners on the market, which is, they're about $3.99 at Ulta. I'm gonna take another smudgy brush. This is another clean one. And just make sure I smudge out any eyeliner that I accidentally dipped down below. No harsh lines. And with some Essence, it doesn't need to be as big as you normally would make it. And I'm just gonna kind of follow where I put that black from before. Once again, it's up to your discretion on how much eyeliner you're allowed to put on. Right now, I'm just using the e.l.f. Roll-In Lash. I honestly, I hate my real lashes as it is, if I'm being real. I don't even curl my lashes because I'm gonna end up putting on some falsies. You can add some shimmer, great. I'm not going to. I'm gonna keep it kind of on the plain Jane sort of side for you guys. Lip colors, that's also like, what are we gonna do for goth makeup? You know what I mean? Like, you wanna feel a little bit edgy, but then again, you gotta keep it work appropriate. So I feel like Mauve Over from Unicorn Gang is a really good option. It's very much like a taupe shade. I love Unicorn Gang, so let's use that. And my two favorite cool toned lip liners are from Colourpop. Ashton is one of them and Cool BFF is the other. This is like the corporate goth go-to here. And it's perfect. It's a cool toned neutral. So hard to find cool toned lippies. And with the makeup, perfect, right? I need some lashes, so I'll be right back. I'm gonna use these. These are Ioni lashes. They're from the dollar store, but I have so many that I love. Check my Amazon store. There's some really good ones on there. So final look, what do we think? Of course, we have to add in these are real. These are my real prescription glass. Yes, 100% yes. Do we want more corporate goth looks? Make sure you subscribe. Leave me a comment below if you want to see more. Do you want to see other palettes? Do you have any palettes to suggest to me? And as always, we will catch you guys next time.